It was a bold move to catch counterfeiters and tax cheats off guard. While the rest of the world was watching the U.S. elections, India's Prime Minister making a surprise televised announcement to pull all 500 and 1,000 rupee banknotes. In a nation where two-thirds of all transactions are in cash, Narendra Modi knew there would be some unruliness in the days and weeks that followed what's being called demonetization. He's asked for 50 days patience. But was he really banking on this much chaos? An entire nation making a beeline for cash machines, with farmers, shop sellers, and basically all those who don't have a credit card or live in town suddenly unable to buy and sell. Those who do have cash under the mattress have to get to the bank, however far, in what one Hindustan Times columnist calls perhaps the most economically and socially disruptive act the world has seen since China's Cultural Revolution. We'll put it to the panel whether or not that's true. Big blunder or the only hard remedy to cracking down on the black market in a nation where only 3% of the population pays income tax. Should Narendra Modi stick to his guns or go back to the drawing board? Today in the FOURQUET debate, we're looking at the cash chaos in India. With us from from New Delhi, Sanjay Kapoor, managing editor of current affairs magazine Hard News. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Sadanant Dume is a Wall Street Journal columnist and resident fellow at the American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C. Welcome to the show. And we welcome back Jean-Joseph Boileau. He advises the CEPI Business Club and most notably the author of India for Dummies in French.
Exactly.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
The FOURQUET debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. Supporters of Narendra Modi insist he dropped enough hints that he wanted to crack down on those who stash cash. But with now cash machines even unable to process the new bills that have been put into circulation, India's 1.2 billion citizens have effectively been reduced to using the equivalent of $1 bills for their daily needs. 9 days on, the government tweaking its response once again. Thomas Waterhouse has the story.
It's now a familiar sight outside banks across India, from villages like this one in Assam to the streets of the capital. Millions line up to exchange their banknotes, which the government says no longer have any value. But with stocks of replacement money running out, tensions have mounted, and police are now struggling to control increasingly frustrated crowds.
We have money but can't use it. It's in our accounts or on us in cash, but we are unable to use it.
With just 4 hours' notice, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced last week that all 500 and 1,000 rupee banknotes, that's the equivalent of about 7 and 14 euros, would immediately be withdrawn. That amounts to a staggering 85% of the country's cash in circulation. If they can handle the long queues, customers, in theory, can exchange these banknotes for the newly issued 2,000 rupee note. But with cash short and many ATMs running dry, the government has placed a weekly withdrawal limit of 24,000 rupees per customer. It's all part of Modi's grand plan to stamp out corruption and so-called black money.
This demonetization is a major cleanliness drive. This is not meant to disturb anyone, but I know it has inconvenienced some people.
That's somewhat of an understatement, with nearly every cash-carrying citizen affected. Even the 97-year-old mother of the Prime Minister was forced to come to this branch to exchange her banknotes. It's also a move that comes at a bad time, with millions of Indians sowing their winter crops or getting wed. In a bid to ease tensions, the government has announced this Thursday that farmers struggling to buy seed or marrying couples struggling to pay for their festivities can withdraw more than the government's weekly limit.
All right, and on that point, I've said Jean-Joseph Boileau, a political scientist, economist, but also concerned dad.
Yes, my daughter is married with an Indian guy, and they are in a holiday. And it's terrible because they were the Andaman Island, where, they are going down in a small guest house, and they are not in the five-star hotel, and they could not pay, the guest house because using a credit card is no use in the Andaman Island. They were lucky because they landed in Delhi and they had a lot of cash. They put everything in the bank. At least they're safe.
Okay, at least they're safe. How's it going for you on that score, Sanjay Kapoor?
Just next to my house, there is a bank ATM which has long queues. It's very distressing. I was actually away when the Prime Minister announced. I was in Tehran and I was listening to the speech that he made, and I didn't really realize the implication till I started scrolling, checking on my Twitter, what my friends and other people were reacting to it. It looked really bad, and when I come back, I find that there is so much of distress and pain all around. People are talking about it. They just talk about how they'll get their next 1,000 rupees, and they haven't a clue. I mean, the entire conversation revolves around whether they've been able to manage the money that they really need to see the end of the day. I have a small little organization, but I have to worry about how I will put my cash component together. How will I pull out money from the bank and give it to my employees? So, these are
because
actually
let's talk about this concretely. You pay your employees in cash.
Not really. I mean, I pay maybe one or two people in cash because they don't have bank accounts. Rest of them I pay through check. But it has come at a time when, there are certain needs that have to be fulfilled in the office. Like, for example, I need cash to get my employees to buy tea, or some basic needs that have to be fulfilled. All that money is in a bit of a mess. And
so how do you buy tea,
Sanjay?
How do you buy tea at this point in time?
I mean, now, they have to stand in the queue, take out some money from the bank, and buy, it's not an everyday thing. You buy tea just once and it sees you through for maybe our next few days, but that is how it is. It is small. You are allowed to take out about 2,000 rupees from the bank, and that's enough. In India, is not very expensive in terms of the cost of tea. But I'm just giving you an example of how small things have begun to weigh very heavily on you. I mean,
do you understand?
Stuff that you never thought about.
Do you understand the Prime Minister's actions? Do you support him?
I agree. There was a colossal amount of black money, and there was a need to somehow take it out from the system, because I see the kind of fortunes people have made in the last 10, 15 years, and there was a need that, they were reined in. But I think PM did not take into cognizance the very inadequate and you would say a kind of infrastructure or administrative machinery that was not adequate to the task. And that is something that worries you, because even though the Prime Minister may have said that it will be sorted out in 50 days, but I think the pain is going to last longer. It will take far longer to replace the existing cash with the new denomination or new cash that the Prime Minister hopes that will come in the Indian society, Indian economy.
Sadanand Dume, you agree that the pain will endure much longer than 50 days?
That seems likely. I actually view this slightly differently. I don't think that this is essentially an economic decision. I think what Prime Minister Modi is betting on is that people would like to see him as a moral crusader who's out to clean up the system and are willing to bear a certain amount of pain for that. Now, how much pain they're willing to bear, what exactly the economic consequences of this decision are going to be, are still unclear. But as I just wrote in the Wall Street Journal, it's an audacious gamble, because this is by far the most consequential act of his 2.5 years in power. And one way or the other, he has to own this decision. So if it's going to work, he is going to do very well politically out of it. But if it backfires, I suspect it might backfire disastrously.
So it's make or break. Could he have done it differently?
I think so. I think, first of all, the first question is going after black money, the so-called illicit funds, is that the biggest priority that his government should have? Secondly, how much of black money is in fact stored in cash? The studies I've seen show that, in fact, it's a very small percentage. The truly wealthy and the crooked politicians and crooked businessmen, they keep their money in jewelry or in real estate or in stocks or in foreign bank accounts. So I do think that there was another way to go about it. I think that there is strong public support for the idea that he wants a cleaner economy. and he's banking on that. But I think most economists would not agree with his approach.
All right, strong public backing for the principle, but as ordinary Indians struggle, the resentment palpable on news that came out earlier this week that an Indian mining tycoon had taken over a royal palace and flown in Brazilian dancers at a reported cost of $75 million to celebrate his daughter's wedding. Up to 50,000 people were expected at the Bangalore Palace, a mock Tudor castle in southern India, to celebrate the wedding of Gali Janardhan Reddy's daughter on Wednesday.
I hear he's spending over 5 billion rupees on his daughter's wedding, while we're standing in line for just 4,000 rupees. How does he get so much money?
The regular people are struggling to get just 4,000 rupees. But when you look at the upper classes like politicians, actors and VIPs, you don't see them withdrawing cash.
The people who spend their money help the poor earn their livelihood. How is it useful for rich people to hoard their money? It doesn't help anyone. The money being spent here is helping to feed a lot of households.
All right, difference of opinions there, whether or not you're invited to the wedding. Jean-Joseph Boileau, it seems as though India doesn't have 50 days' worth of patience.
Well, I think that the initial shock, yes, will end after, let's say, end of December. Number two is, what was the intention and what would be the result, okay? The intention was to fight against two things, and always very bad for an economist to try, to achieve two targets. One was the so-called cashless economy, to get into the tax net, more taxpayers.
Basically turn India's informal sector onto the books, put it onto the books.
The tax book.
Yeah,
because 75% of the economy is not under the tax net. That is concern for everybody, and on that Modi decision was legitimate and good. But also, we've seen the idea was to target the black economy, the dirty money, the illegal economy. On the tax net issue, there is absolutely no popular support to Modi on that. The popular support was on the black economy, on the illegal economy, the criminal economy. But as someone say, actually this black economy, the illegal economy, was not in cash. Very little was in cash. It's in property, jewelry, and abroad, 500 billions of, let's say, illegal economy from India is in Switzerland, offshore centers, etc., etc. So I'm afraid that the intention was very good. The implementation is terrible, and the target won't be achieved. Target being...
So what's he going to have to do? Is he going to roll it back?
Yes, I think so.
He's going to have to roll it back?
Yeah, I think.
How does he do it?
He will not do it. India will do. This is called the Jugaad economy. The Indians are adapting very fast to that situation, no? And this week, for instance, there's a black market. If you want 100 notes, which is the legal denomination, and to buy tea or some stuff, 100 is enough. So what you do, you take your 500 notes and you exchange against, the black market rate is about 300 rupee in 100 note denomination.
So they'll make change, but at a price.
They'll make change, and the relative price of the note are changing.
Sanjay Kapoor, have you witnessed this?
No, I've heard about it, that something like this is happening. Primarily what has happened that the Prime Minister or the government has announced that you can use the 500 rupee note up to, say, 31st of December. So in a certain way, it enjoys certain kind of legality. You could use it in the hospital, you can use it for buying medicine. Now you can use it in petrol pumps. So there are spaces where it is still used. So it has not gone away entirely. Now the date is being shifted to sometime next year. So there are spaces where it could be used, and people are taking advantage. People are putting the submission of this money in, backdated in banks which are, far away from Delhi, or in areas where they can manage it. Because India is so diverse, it's so, there are large spaces which are not even, law doesn't have the kind of influence or exercise the kind of sway that you would expect. So as the fellow panelists, the gentleman said, there is this Indian concept of jugaad. And the other thing is that in large parts of the rural economy, which is still not banked, you have return to barter economy. So people are trying to wait out this this phase. They're hoping that things will normalize and it will be business as usual after a point of time. But if you look at how the the entire economy has been impacted, there is a visible contraction. I mean, I stay in a neighborhood where there are a lot of businesses. They're talking about 70 to 80% contraction right away in a matter of 8 to 9 days. And small businesses and businesses which run on money, I'm sure they will be very badly hit. There will be people who will be rendered unemployed. I don't know how they will come back. And it's a monetary shock that people don't even know the implications because something like this has not been attempted. Besides,
and the biggest concern on that, if I'm not mistaken, is farmers. How are they going to be able to pay their laborers, and how are they going to be able to get seed money and to prepare the next crop?
What I've been told is that people have very little money to buy seeds. The area under cultivation is going to shrink rapidly. The next 1 or 2 quarters are going to yield far less crop than one would have expected. So what we are looking for was supposed to be a model project. It is going to see a major contraction in GDP. Life is going to be very, very tough in the coming days. We just seen the early days of pain, and it's going to get worse.
You heard Jean-Joseph Boileau saying it's going to be rolled back. Do you agree? Is that what's going to happen?
I don't think so. I think what is happening in a certain way is that there are areas where it is being relaxed, where you can use money. The provinces, state governments say that you can buy land using old legal tender. So, in a certain way, there is a looseness coming in, but I don't think PM can roll back. I think he has too much invested in this decision. There is a self-perception about him that he's a tough guy. He can't roll back. He's going to take on the corrupt. And that is what his pitch has been. He cried sometime, he laughed sometime about the misery of the people who were standing in the queue. So, there is a certain amount of drive that the Prime Minister has. He thinks that he would be the Messiah who will change India. So I don't think he can roll back. He may ease out a little bit, but no rollback.
All right, one reaction on the hashtag F24 debate. What seemed to be a masterstroke turns out to be a nightmare for many, mainly for the underprivileged. Is it temporary? Will it really have a long-term impact on black money? Are there other political motivations behind the move? Sadanand Dume talked about politics playing a part. We'll be talking about it again with our panel when we come back in the France 24 debate.